All right, you are live.
Alrighty. Well, hello, Mark Powell. Welcome to the Popcorn Space. How you doing today?
Glad to be here. Yeah, I got a popcorn mug and everything.
Yeah, so you're all official, all set. You know what's funny? You know who Mac Powell is?
Yeah. There's a Mac Powell who's in the Texas music scene.
Yeah. He's actually coming to the Paramount tomorrow, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's funny that we got this lined up. I was like, oh, Mac Powell's coming to town too.
I think my name's not that creative. So, matter of fact, I hear all the time. You can Google the name, and there's an artist. He specializes in drawing old people.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that pops up. But
no, I did find that. Well, you were the first thing that popped up when I found it.
Okay.
But in all the images, I was like, does he have a side business
Yeah,
as an
see that?
artist?
Yeah. I've made that comment as a joke before that, in my spare time I draw.
Yeah, just
Lots
start
of
going for it.
wrinkles,
People will believe you the whole time.
I met Mac. We did a show with Brandon Ryder a long time ago, and he was playing guitar for him, I believe.
Okay, cool.
And I don't know him that well, though. Not very many kinfolk around here.
Yeah. I want to start off by asking you about this Outlaws and Legends things that you started, right?
Yeah.
So tell me all about like how that idea formed and where it came
Mm-hmm.
from and how it came to fruition.
So I played music my whole life, and there was a bit where was involved very heavily into the Abilene community, and and if you're an artist around here, sometimes you get called or asked to do benefit style events. And
so you're from Abilene?
Oh yes.
Okay, cool.
So originally born in Ballinger. I'm the son of a musician, and his family was rooted there around that Concho area. My mom's side is the McCaleb side, which is Anson to Abilene. But on that, really what happened was there was, this is so convoluted, but because I didn't really ever have the idea to get into or have my annual festival. There was a time whenever I was asked to do a thing for the expos, kind of a fundraiser, and I called in a bunch of buddies to try to help them out and get it all set up, and then they said the date wouldn't work, but people had heard that might have happened, and it was just a song swap, a big song swap. And so several of my friends in the music business were planning on coming, and we were going to make a writing thing out of it too, And so
you mean writing at the event?
Yeah. So like, not, in different parts of Texas and in Tennessee and now in Colorado, do writing retreats with people. And this was one of those things. Hey, we play a show and then all hammer out some songs and stuff.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is that kind of didn't fall through, but guys like Larry Joe and Tommy Alverson, Johnny Bush and Matt Martindale and those guys were like, man, let's just do it anyway. I was like, you Mark, and you need to do that here. And if you need any help, we'd be glad to help you, because there's guys like Larry Joe has a music fest in Stephenville, and Tommy's got one. He had one in Mineral Wells for the longest time, and they're like, yeah. So anyway, this is bits and pieces, and then a couple of business owners that I was neighbors with. I lived on the south side of Abilene, and with two little kids at the time, and the wife, and it's weird. I mean, so one of the guys jumped right in and said, "Hey, I'm sponsoring it," and then let's get some others. Well, so long story short, we threw down in Joe Allen's open field.
Okay.
On it was about as straight pasture land Woodstock as you could possibly get.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we were doing, but that first year, I mean, more artist friends of mine wanted in, more sponsors wanted in, and then people showed up.
How many people did you have come to the first one? Do you know?
We had 6,100 people.
Oh, wow.
On one day. So for me, it was just something to be said for Abilene, because Abilene has never been a music mecca. Matter of fact, it's been the absolute opposite of that. that's just the facts. I'm a Abilene fan, but
so what do you think it is about Abilene that's kept it?
It's always been like that. As a kid, I grew up playing fiddle when I was 5, and that's all because of my dad. We all learned music by ear, and we would go play, whether it was a little bitty civic event or later on a club or a rodeo or a banquet or a festival or whatever. It was always a dry hole. So there's areas like that. Abilene's not the only one. Amarillo's got those same problems, and so, but it was one of those things that you quickly learn when you dabble in music that it's not, the excitement is there. Like when we go play hill country or California, Colorado, overseas, and all that stuff, and those are great. There's some huge pockets that are just like people are excited about it.
Well, I don't know what it started with. I don't know if it started with you or with some other people, but I think I would make the argument that it slowly started to change.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know who Andrew Holmes is.
Mm-mm.
He was a local artist. He lives in Dallas now,
okay,
and performs there a lot. But he was able. A funny thing about him, they made this like little mini doc about him, and he talked about he had moved to, when he started getting more popular, he moved to Tennessee. He wanted to go out there and make it, and he realized he stayed out there for a year, I think, and he talked to a bunch of different artists, and they would have all these like get-togethers and stuff. And he noticed from all of these different people, he would ask them what their dream was, and all of them would say, I just want to be able to live off music. I want to be able to perform and make a living.
Yeah.
Even if I'm broke all the time.
Right.
And Andrew kind of realized that's what I was doing in Abilene. I was able to, like, because it was cheaper to live in Abilene.
Yeah. It's so funny. I've got different portions of music, and it's just where life takes you is always different. And so I totally agree with that. Sometimes the bigger you get, it's just more, more payroll, more. And so, you can, my dad always, he played with different good, like big bands and stuff, even before I was born. And so,
so tell me about your dad. Tell me what exactly he did.
Okay. So, him and, like his mom and really his grandmother, there was just this knack for learning any instrument or just picking it up and rolling. And people say that, I can play by ear. Well, yeah. Well, Dad can really pick up anything and roll with it. And so he, I've got the best parents, and he was always not forcing that on me.
He wasn't like one of those sports dads that was trying to.
No, yeah,
he didn't
opposite a little league dad. Absolutely,
throw the guitar on you.
Yeah, absolutely not. So, but and I've actually used that same principle on my kids. So, growing up, he had banjos and mandolins and guitars and fiddles and basses and around the house. And it's kind of like, hey, if the kid picks it up, if he asks me, I can kind of help him with it. And so I was never the kind, and I'm still to this day, people are wired. The way I'm wired is I like to figure stuff out on my own.
Yeah.
And so, he'd give me some pointers here and there. And
it's like the story of true love. You had to find it on your own. Then he could nurture it.
Yeah. But he's always been a more or less a side musician, like an on-call side musician. So, before I was born, there was a kind of a popular 60s rock band called the Cavaliers, and he was working with them, and then I was born, and then there was I guess because he could use, he was familiar and could definitely get around at that point, transitioning from keyboard in a rock band to, fiddle and banjo and keyboard and all that. And so he was working with guys like Mac Davis and Gary Stewart and Larry Gatlin and, just different folks. Well, I always liked music. He didn't have to force that on me. And of course, as a kid, and I still think, if we're talking music, I make this comment to, people that ask, but as a kid, it's like whatever you're listening to at that point that is your seed. And, you know, for me, I grew up on the old country because that's where his stage was when, as a, you know, kind of a professional side guy. Well, you know, so that made an impact for my music. And so, anyway, you know, we would work, you know, he'd you know, get me up on stage, and before too long, as a tiny kid, I was twin fiddling. And
what was the first time you were on stage?
Oh my gosh. You know, I really don't know. I
Like
feel
it's young enough that you don't remember very well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Because, matter of fact, somebody the other day, I went into a radio interview in Colorado Springs, and I think it was at that one. Or maybe it was in Silverthorne, Colorado. And the DJ was like, "Hey, I found this article." And I'm like, "Whoa."
About this little kid.
It was an old Texas Monthly, like from I don't even know. I think it was like early like 1990 or you know. And there I am with my tube socks all the way up, you know, my tortoise frame glasses, they're just straight geek, you know. And but it was me and my brother and my dad playing at a major political rally of some sort, you know, back in the day. And that's when it hits, because then when you have kids like me, I'm like, oh man, like I was little. I was like, I didn't realize it.
I think it's good to get out there early though, because it really helps you like develop a sense of kind of like home when you're on stage. And it keeps you, because I mean, it can become a problem even in everyday like office workers' lives when you can't talk to more than 3 people at one time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I think like speech and theater and being able to get on a stage is really important for someone who's grown up.
You know, I had no aspirations definitely no aspirations of being a lead singer. You know, and that's part of the stage. Like, we know if for me, if I get into music, or if any person gets into music at you know, at the age of 5 or 8 or whatever, you know, you're limited a little bit as to what you feel like your aspiration or what you want to do with music. And you know, I just wanted to be like Dad. You know, I just made, hey, I'm gonna play fiddle like Dad, and there we go. But I had this knack for remembering words, not just playing by ear, but like, for instance, right now I could leave this place, and I grew up in Abilene. And if I have to go to some place that I don't go regularly, I would have to GPS it, because my brain doesn't work on navigation. My brain doesn't work with dates or names as much, but I can remember faces, and I have this knack for listening. You know, even as a writer, it comes in so handy, because I do a lot of co-writes, and I can remember start to finish where we're at. So it's like, where I really stink on one side of the brain, I'm pretty good on the other. And so I don't know, I think that's been helpful. And so so growing up, that's what, you know, there was a time when there was a band called Lariat, and they were pretty popular in the late 80s. And lead singer who was extreme, he was an influence for me. He moved off, because I was the little kid on the side of the stage, you know. And he gets a little deal with Nashville, and moved out there. And they were kind of in a place. I do remember this, like this might have been the same era of really I do know it was my first time lead singing. So they were stuck in a situation where they had a really good band, my dad was a part of, and needed a singer for it. And you know, it was one of those things. Dad had always, my little kid's bedroom door was always shut, and I was always being a geek, playing on something, listening to something, but he could hear me in there singing, and he knew I knew the words on all that stuff. So jumped up on stage, and I think that was the first time to sing was at the Expo Center here.
How old were you?
I think it would have been 12, 13. And then what's cool for my life is, you know, I went to school at Wiley here, and we had a band, 13 and 14-year-old. And
did you have a comment? Oh. He really looked like he was going for that microphone. I thought he was going to talk trash about Wiley or something.
We could.
I heard Wiley and I saw him creeping up.
Yeah. Oh, it's a different ball game. Back then, it was barely a baseball field, and that's
yeah.
But anyway, they Ryan Starks, who's now my keyboard player, and me and him and a couple other dudes had a band. We had to have people drive us.
Yeah.
To nobody had a license.
Yeah.
And we were the typical normal kids where we were all into baseball or basketball, football, whatever. And so there's to this day I remember coming in off of like a baseball game and changing clothes, having an adult drive us to some place and play. And what's cool is shortly after that I went to ACU. He went to Nebraska. And
what'd you study at ACU?
Business. Yeah. Okay. So I
graduated. What was your first job? Like, was it
writing music? No, it was not at all, because my dad's comment in music was always keep it a hobby.
Yeah.
I've got a little bit of a thing where if you tell me that I can't eat that paper, or I
became the forbidden fruit.
Absolutely. So, I'm like, I'm going to beat that. I will make it a living. And, but no, right out of college, I worked for a independent and assisted living company. Out of Fort Worth. I stayed there with the old folks, and but then let's see, after that, I got a random call from a guy. In music, the greatest thing about music isn't, there's probably one of the greatest things is you play for different people and you never know who you play for.
Yeah.
And the people you get to meet are just so cool. And I don't remember playing some TCU event, but I got a call from a guy that apparently I did, and he was there. And and now he's in with Universal, and so I get the call from him, and shortly after that we moved to Tennessee, and I started working in some major writing rooms. Right before that happened, I had released my first CD. And
so when I want to ask you the specifics. So you say you released your first CD.
Yeah.
And I know now it's the whole game has changed. So I know people, you don't need a label at all. I could make a CD.
Absolutely.
And put it on
Back
iTunes.
then it was totally different.
Yeah. Right. So I'm curious, like what did it mean to make a CD?
Oh, exactly. It's everything you got. And of course, I've never had any backing. Everything has been about as independent as you can get. So, I'd worked as many gigs as I could, just typical. And then you go in there, and those songs suck now. I mean, because but those are your first ones you come out with.
Well, I know that a lot of people don't like their first songs. But I get upset with certain artists because, considering Andrew Holmes is a friend of mine, and he doesn't like his first album at all. He's taken it off of iTunes. You can't even find it. And I'll ask him to play songs sometimes, and be like, "No, I don't like that anymore."
Right.
Like, other people do though.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, it is cool though. Every once in a while, I'll play some random place, and somebody will request a song off that first album,
that first CD,
and that means the world to me though, because those are the very few people where they really shouldn't have been supporting me back then. Yeah, I mean, but they dug the music, and so, but that's the greatest thing. I mean, if you always keep getting better as a writer. Yeah. That's the one thing that, if you're doing the right thing and you're sponging from other writers, which I think is extremely important, then you're getting better as a writer.
Yeah.
And so every album should be a step up.
So I want to ask you something so I write, I've written songs before, but I wouldn't consider myself a songwriter. But more than that, I would consider myself, I write scripts and I do short films and stuff like that.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
And I've noticed as a writer, it's kind of changed my day-to-day perspective. And so when I'm going through life, I'll see something that could be some kind of idea and I get caught up in it, and I'll find myself keeping a notepad on me.
Oh yeah.
And there's sometimes, it's funny when I'm trying to, if I ever get nervous for something that's coming up the next day and you have trouble falling asleep, my trouble will be, trying to stay in one position, but then I come up with an idea out of nowhere. I'm sitting still in my bed and I need to write this down.
Straight squirrel. It. Yeah.
And so I'm curious how being a songwriter has affected your day to day?
Big time. I mean, and that's the worst question, or it's a typical question. I never know how to answer it. Is how, like, aspiring songwriters will be like, how do you write? What's your format or whatever? And there's not one at all. I mean, and I can look at, I think right now 16 other artists have cut my songs. Then I've got my songs, and all of them are just as important. But when you ask the question, how do you write, or what, they're asking that kind of question. It totally varies. And I don't know. I think whenever you do try to put it in a box, it doesn't work.
Right.
And I can't imagine it working for short films. I can't imagine it working for anything else, because it's either it's genuine, or it's not. And if it's replicated, people sniff that out.
Well, it's a different beast every time. Like every time there's been sometimes where an idea comes to me, sometimes where I know that I want to make something, so I rack my brain for a day and a half.
Yeah. And there's not, there's when you do rack your brain, I always question, I question the integrity.
Right.
Because, for instance, right now I've got a song, it's number 5 on the charts. And that one I wrote with Dean Dillon, major writer. And we wrote that in literally about 20 minutes, right outside of it. We were playing some gigs in Florida, and it was crazy. Just quickly, just out, real cool.
Yeah.
No changes. And then, and so it's doing real well. I wrote a number 1 with Jamie Richards, and it was also Song of the Year in Texas Music 2 years ago. And we wrote that same thing. It literally took so much less time. And as a writer, it's hard to break yourself off from the ones that you really, really fight. The ones that you, Church Marquee took me 2 years. Some of those other ones, like that I'm probably more proud of, but I think the reason I'm proud of it is the time investment. I'm like, oh, this was a masterpiece because of this, and it's not.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so it's really hard to decipher.
Yeah. Well, it's not. I mean, it's not about the time or the money. It's more like what you can do with it. So,
yeah, that's right.
I mean, if you found out that like Eddie Van Halen was playing on a $5 guitar, I'd be like, oh my God, it's just what he can do with it. It doesn't really matter the integrity of the guitar. I think it's interesting. I'm just losing my train of thought as I said it, but when we were talking about everything being a different beast, and when I think the best concrete advice that I would give, I don't know if I want to see if you agree with this, would be just living life, because I think our phones take us out of it so much.
Oh yeah.
And how an idea forms is when you're kind of just enjoying the world and you see something and you go, I wonder if that could go this way. And that's where an idea comes from.
Absolutely.
Just trying to be present.
Here's the thing. I agree with that. My biggest thing is, it's so weird. Other artists, like frontmen, guys like me, or like straight songwriters, or people that don't even write their own, but they're an entertainer. I think the problem in music, what I sense from other artists, it's a takeaway, it's a learning lesson, but like, there's some that I sense they don't study other writers, and they don't study other artists, and I think that's like seriously important. Like, it's so funny to me. If me and you were both artists and we both get invited to play down the road, okay, you show up, and it's so funny because some artists are like, oh no, I don't know that. I don't know Haggard. I don't know, whoever, Paycheck. I don't know Cash. I don't, and I question that, because if you're really an artist, you should know the whole, all the canvases, and you should know how those canvases worked out. Like, and I'm a part of it is I am a geek, and like, but I think that's seriously important. Just like I question some writers that are die up, like, I'm not writing with other people. All of my songs are mine.
Yeah.
That's dumb. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. I have a curious question for you. As far as, I mean, I can tell just talking to you, you have a very country sounding voice, like for country music. Have you ever, or would you ever, just to kind of try to stretch yourself as a songwriter, would you ever try to do a different genre of song?
Absolutely.
What do you think you would do,
absolutely.
or what have you done?
On a recutting or at stage stuff, or
just on writing any songs
on writing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm always looking to get out of my shell. You know, I just wrote 3 or 4 for Perry and Phil. Their style's more of a progressive Americana, you know. Gosh, I've written stuff for Clinton Pickens. Do you know who that is?
I don't know who that is.
He grew up here. He's a stand-up comedian in LA, and he calls one time when I was in Tennessee, and we ended up writing him a comedy album. It's a more or less a.
How do you spell his name?
Clinton Pickens, Clinton Pickens. Anyway, but those kind of projects I dig, because it's like it is getting out of my shell.
Yeah,
and that's the only way you get better.
Yeah,
I mean, if I remember this too. This means a lot to me, because I think guys that are influential to me, I want to know how they got there. I want to know what they do to stretch themselves. So,
well, I mean, it's important to study anything that you're going to get into and know what people have done and learn from not only your mistakes, but the mistakes of the people before you. It's important to know all that.
I mean, so, I stayed a lot whenever I was in Nashville. I stayed, I knew Nikki Mitchell, who's from this area, and she was Waylon's manager. And so I would hang out at Waylon's place all the time. He had died, I think, a year and a half before I got there. And then, but I would just crash there and hang out, and what's funny looking back is, like, at that time, there was guys like Jamie Johnson and Chris Stapleton and guys like that. And we were we were just couch hanger-outers, we were just hanging out there, it was a little group. Nobody was making any headway in music. And, but there's this one time when I went upstairs, and there's the coolest thing to me. There's a closet door right behind the desk I was at. It was a desk like this, and it was Waylon's old desk upstairs. She asked me to do something, and I opened the closet door, and there's a picture of Waylon and James Hetfield with Metallica. And I was like, yeah, so isn't that she's like, oh, James Hetfield. I'm like, yeah, okay, weird. Okay, so they're that friends or something.
She said it with like the same energy. She's talking about an old buddy.
Yeah, she's like, well, no, she's kind of like, yeah, that's him. I go, that's really odd to me. I mean, are they like friends or something? And she's like, well, actually, yeah, they wrote an entire album worth right before Waylon died.
Wow.
And I go, is that the case? Is that for real? She's like, yeah. I go, where's the music at? And I still don't know what they've done with that. But my takeaway from that is, Waylon had just a great style. He had a lot of cool songs, and I've studied his career, but the stuff that I didn't know was stuff like that.
Yeah.
So as an artist, that teaches me to any opportunity I've got to be in a sound room with this guy, or a session with this guy, or whatever, and they're outside of my element, I'm down. I mean, because
it's just constant growing. You want to take all the opportunities.
Oh yeah, and I mean, music, it doesn't matter what genre you're into. All of it's accumulation of different genres into one. I mean, country is blues, jazz, folk, all of that, and then there's the rock element, and that's actually got some jazz stuff in there too, a little bit of blues, and it depends. And so anyway,
so as far as music you listen to, so obviously you listen to a lot of country, but besides country, what would be the main ones you listen to?
I don't just listen to country. Yeah, I mean, people totally don't think that about me, but because I'm a little bit traditional. No, I love songwriters that a lot of which people probably aren't familiar with. I love guys like, John Prine and Matt Martindale, and I like it's across the game. I like Todd Snyder. I'm a huge Tom Waits fan. James Taylor. I like all of those kinds. And then on progressive side, there in Denver, like a few days ago, I went to go see the North Mississippi All-Stars.
Yeah.
But it totally spans. I'm a big Tedeschi Trucks person. I mean, I'm all over the board because there's a genuine sense of it, and that's what registers for me.
Right.
I'm not so big onto any pop culture in pop culture in country, pop culture in whatever, just because it does nothing to me. The gutsy stuff is stuff I dig because the heart's in it, and there's a lot of talent behind those guys.
So I have a question for you, which is, I mean, music can be like so unpredictable. Obviously, you started off with a business degree, and you ended up doing music.
Yeah.
You know who Ed Sheeran is, of course.
Yeah.
And so, he started off living couch to couch, and suddenly he's world famous.
Sure.
And so it's so unpredictable. What kind of advice would you give to someone, say, coming out of high school that wanted to have a career in music?
There's a bunch of stuff I'd advise. One is do your research. Treat it like a business. Everyone's mistake in music business is not treating it like a business, which means usually they're getting into music because of this fame. There's literally no fame in music. To me, I look at it the same as, if I am making coffee cups for a living, if I don't get up and grind and research where people are at with it and hone in on my product and treat it like an 8-to-5 job, it won't work.
Right.
And music is that one career that people can get into and they will mess it all up by thinking there's this rock star livelihood of it. I'll just act big or it's not that. Be a geek, be a geek and actually treat it like a real career and work your butt off at it. People get into the hype and the ego. Yeah. Those are the two things.
I mean, there's the
I hate that
misconception that it's just kind of laying around living the rock star life. But I mean, most of the people aren't doing that because it's a grind.
If they do it, it's a facade.
Right.
And it doesn't matter who you are. And I mean, I've gotten to meet a lot of music guys. And yes, there's so many of them. You're like, oh, that dude's a prima donna. Why do you do that? Like, why do you put that front up? Because in reality, I mean, if you are making success, meaning, which is undefined, or he's got it, or he's become popular, whatever. What it is if you are making a living off of it, that is the goal for anybody in music.
Right.
From there, your success is dictated by hard work and how much you put in behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I mean, if talent doesn't have hard work behind it, people who work harder are always going to beat the talented guy.
Oh, I mean, music's a perfect case in point. There's, it's so funny. People will beat other artists up, or people that are fans, or people go to shows and they'll make a comment very derogatory towards this guy, And yes, that guy is probably that same guy I won't listen to. And I don't mean that bad, but like they're a mainstream person and they deem this person as he's tone deaf, why do people, whatever. The thing is that dude's probably working way harder than you are or than this guy is. So there's that element. You hope to hit on all cylinders. I mean, Stapleton's a perfect example. They're in Tennessee. He was very well respected as a human. In the songwriting realms, even back then when he wasn't popular, but everybody's like, oh, this guy's great. He's talented.
Yeah.
And he was just cutting, trying to beat some doors down like everybody else was. And so on that sense, that's the all cylinders thing. I mean, he already had the talent, great singer, huge singer, and a brilliant songwriter, and just been killing it. So yeah, and that's what you hope for. I don't know, but yeah, the advice for music to me is don't box yourself in either. For me, I never would have thought that, I own a production company, a music festival, a venue, a tour around and I'm kind of in a publishing company too. So it's like, that's what I look at. I'm like, I've got 5 companies, all of which are different, but they're all synergistic to music. And so, and by the way, that, whether some of that was accidental, very grateful for that. I am.
What's the biggest name you've had at Outlaws and Legends, by the way?
Oh, it's hard to me. The biggest one I've
Mark
had,
Powell.
No, no. To me, the biggest one is Merle Haggard.
Oh, okay. Really? I didn't know that he was there.
Oh yeah, he was there the 3rd year.
Okay, because he passed away like a year or 2 ago, right?
I also had Leon Russell there, and he passed away as well. And, yeah, I mean, the cool thing with the festival is I can get those bucket list guys that I haven't even seen
that's
before.
Awesome. I mean, I know people who don't know anything about country music that know who Merle Haggard is. Yeah,
sure. I mean, it's hard. I mean, we've had so many big ones. I thought I did think having Leon Russell was cool. You know, but Leanne Womack and Dwight Yoakam and David Allenco and all the guys that have come and played. It's that's an advantage for me, is I sponge that in.
So what did getting people like Merle Haggard consist of? Was it specifically you calling people to call people to get them, or was it someone who worked for him hearing about Outlaws and Legends, or what?
There's some of that. There's some of that now. Of course, it wasn't like that in the early days. I mean, nobody knew what that was.
Yeah.
But what helps me out is all the music connections I've had. Growing up, you meet people in the business, and then so it's not as hard,
right?
If it's some dude that just, hey, I'm going to start a festival, which I'm like, good luck. I can't imagine myself doing that right now,
right?
But because it's so painfully hard work. But honestly, like a lot of those guys are people that if I didn't know them personally, I knew guys in their band, or I've worked with this guy. And so that part helps out a lot for me. And then, outside of there, it is so weird nowadays, because I feel like I'm grinding so hard at writing and performing and the festival that I'm not ever content as a human anyway. That's what my wife would tell you. And so it causes me to be a lot pessimistic, but like, it's hard for me to step back and look at what's going on.
Right.
There's a friend of mine one time, it was like, Vince Gill's asked to play, from a Minneapolis show. It was, dude walking around with the Outlaws and Legends cap on, and they're like, man, that's a festival we want to be at.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, well, just like Chris Christopherson's wife had called, and, introducing herself and just saying how thrilled they are to get to play my festival. And I'm like, wow, this is surreal for me. This is,
well, there is a good aspect about, I mean, it's good to be optimistic, but the good aspect about what you're saying is at least you're going to keep growing, because you're only as good as your next performance.
Yeah.
And if you get stuck on what you've already done, you're never going to continue achieving. Because you'll be like, I've had Merle Haggard, I'm kind of done now.
Oh no, yeah, right. I know.
But you keep progressing from there. So that I think
I just don't view it like that. Yeah. I mean, I wish I did. I think, and I think there's a time for that. And yeah, I can do that when I'm 90.
Right.
Well, for me, I won't live that old, but like,
when you're 103, you can do it then.
Whenever I'm finally like stuck in a chair, I'll be like, okay, I can look back and say that was kind of cool. But
when you get in the assisted living home, you can be telling the people who are going to be the next country music artists.
Absolutely. But I don't know. I think that kind of stuff that does it right when that's said is cool, and then it's back to the grind, because I don't have a big crew of anybody. The band, we're all contained. There was just that little time whenever that was a year and a half in Tennessee, and then back, and it's like totally independent.
Yeah. It seems if I heard it correctly that Outlaws and Legends kind of just started, like you never intended for it to be so big.
Absolutely not. But, but then when you do throw it down and it's really cool, it was a fun process. And somebody that's a hard worker like me, that you do that and you're like, oh, cool, I can keep doing that.
Yeah.
It registered with me the biggest whenever Larry Joe Taylor, who's got a 40-year-old festival, 30-year-old festival, I don't know how old it is, and said, man, do you see how many people are here? And he's saying that the first year. He's like, man, I didn't have that many people in my 13th year.
Yeah.
And that's cool to me. And I'm like, oh, geez. And yeah, once you have that, I'm like, well, I've got a product. I'm not going to quit it. And then, yes, then when I meet your folk or Livy, and I'm like, oh, well, we have to move it to the racetrack because there's no other option.
Right.
I mean, if I couldn't have made that work with them, I don't know what would have happened, because Abilene wasn't fixed for handling. They'd never seen a festival like ours. We couldn't have made it happen at even the expo or even at wherever. I mean, just for capacity's sake and RV's sake. And so we made that work. And then it was like the third year, I was fortunate enough to buy the ranch that I'm at. And of course, we worked that, my wife and I, basically by hand. And we had a little bit of help from other people. And now we've got a really cool crew of just amazing humans that, if they weren't part of the festival, then we don't have a festival. But it's all about the good people and doing it right. And so, now we sit with, we got 110 volunteers, and we got, we've got 60 sponsors. We've got, we're going to hit capacity again this year with an increase of 800 people and a plus 50 RVs, and it blows my mind, as far as that. But it's all due to these people that are in your camp that are just like you. They understand that you don't have a machine behind you.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are first in line to help you out. So,
well, it's cool to watch things grow. I mean, obviously, I'm not filming this podcast on a ranch or anything, but I mean, I just started my podcast in my bedroom with
that's cool.
Yeah, 2 simple mics that I went and bought from Best Buy for like $50.
Perfect. Yeah.
And slowly, just over time, you have more people that are interested in what you do and want to be a part of it somehow.
Yeah.
And it just gets bigger, and it's cool. It's cool to see that progression and watch something that you created suddenly get out of your hands and kind of become its own thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And which props for that. That's really cool.
Thanks.
And so, but when that becomes part of your story, and if your story isn't like that,
it's this
if it's
dream of overnight success that
down,
doesn't really exist.
Yeah, but it's also a thing. I mean, I respect the guys like me that I came from school teachers and a side musician.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, and I'm not making light of it. They're the best parents ever, but I didn't come from money at all. And I still, I'm still fight for whatever I got, but again, it all goes back to hard work. And when you look back, like for you, that's what you want, and that's what people fall in love with is, man, yeah, you had a cheap Radio Shack mic in a bedroom and done. And now, you grow it.
Well, have you ever seen the movie The Founder? So it's a biopic about McDonald's, and Michael Keaton plays Ray Kroc, who franchised McDonald's.
Yeah.
And it shows him in the beginning, and he's trying to sell this multi-mixer that makes a bunch of different milkshakes at one time. And it basically gives you this idea, as people start talking about him, that he's a guy who's always trying to find the next big thing. And he's like, no, this one's going to be big. This one's going to be big. So when he first finds McDonald's, no one believes in him. They're like, oh, is this the next multi-mixer? And he's like, no, this is really going to be big. I'm telling you. But the thing is that the reason it worked for him is because he was persistent and he kept going. He'd find something and he'd push it to the very end, and then find something and keep pushing it. And that was kind of the whole theme of the movie, was that it's all about persistence, is that you have to keep going with it. Like the thing you said, making it a hobby became forbidden fruit to you. So you were like, I'm determined. I'm doing this.
Oh, I at least got to try it.
Yeah.
And yes, once I got there, I'm like, it's a huge compliment to get either a Sony or a Universal type of thing. And,
right.
Because that doesn't happen with, there's guys that they act like they're big deals and they're just want real bad to get one of those deals.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it didn't work. I mean, it was cool. It was an honor, but like, and I learned real cool stuff. And that's what I do when I come back. And I'm like, I take the stuff that I learned, which was mainly for me getting to write with great writers. I was just sponging that in. I was like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about though is like something that's important. Like, for instance, when I bought the ranch, it was an overgrown 35-year-old abandoned ranch property that looked horrible. It was in bad shape.
Yeah.
Trees growing through everywhere. There was no roads. I jumped a fence to go look at it with a realtor. And then I found the structure, and seriously, one of those things, if you've got the vision, you can ask people, but sometimes it's best if you believe in it hard enough. Like in my case, my wife, my folks, my best friends in the world, I took about 7 of them total out there, and I said, here's what's going to happen here.
Right.
I'm going to buy this place, and then this little structure with a double level, I go, the stage is going to go here. The creek is going to separate my general parking. I saw it.
Yeah.
You know, and every year it's an effort to get as close to that original vision as I can get with what I've got. So, but it is so, like, for me, you know, I'm looking at this overgrown thing. I didn't see it like that. You know, I saw it like, this is how this works so perfect. And here's the reasons why. And everybody's like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. My wife, you know, and my parents are like, this is worthless. That's the dumbest idea you've ever had. Turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, so, and, you know, now we're sitting at, gosh, I've got 2 structures that are 3 stories. I've got 2 built-in air-conditioned loft suites there. I've got, you know, sky boxes. I've got patio tables. I've got tailgates, and, you know, this just weird, but it's all stuff that, you know, and not every idea is great at all.
Right.
Oh
right.
man, I've really missed the mark on some things.
Well, it's like, I mean, theoretically, if you just keep going and being persistent, eventually you're going to get something right.
Yeah. You know, I mean, and you shouldn't be confined. I mean, I'm not confined at all. Most people like me, that they're not going to dabble in a festival. They're not going to dabble in a production or a publishing company, a venue, or not. But to me, that's important. I think the route of the dudes, like in music, the guys that are like, nope, you're in Texas music. That means you need to be playing at this club, this club, this club, this club.
Right.
It's a Texas circuit. Like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
You're an idiot, because if that's what you think you should be doing, you're going to be out of it. You're going to be dead broke, and it won't work for you. To me, it's all about, again, treat it like a business and look at it in terms of, how do I fit within this whole life thing? How do I fit within this whole, you know, from there into the music thing, and then within that, the Texas music thing, if that's what you're doing, or if it's Americana or whatever. And then you figure out, you know, how to be successful without any box. I mean, you're not in a box. Look at it like, hey, I want to do this, you know. When I get to talk to people like, you know, Haggard, Dina Carter, some of these people that they did some progressive things in their era, and then they paid off. That's my notepad's out, and so that's what I love taking in, and I think that's what's helped me. Is
what was it like meeting Merle Haggard?
It was the best thing ever.
Yeah,
you know, I can tell you that conversation like it just happened.
Yeah,
and this was back in 2014.
So when did you finally get to meet him? So
so I knew when I was in Nashville, I knew I'd met Ben Haggard, his son, who's a freaking amazing musician.
Yeah.
And Ben's a little younger than me. But yeah. So when they showed up to the fest, Ben's like, this is funny to me. And if I'm talking too much, you can just say I'm talking.
You're all good, man.
So they were there. They had all 3 buses right there, and Hags was the Eagle or the white one there. And Ben goes, "Hey, here in like an hour, Dad wants you to come up and talk if that's cool."
Mm-hmm.
And I go, "Yes, that's of course. I mean, yes."
Mm-hmm.
So his wife and his crew was already out hanging out, and now the timing was such where we were going on stage right before him, and this is whenever he wanted to talk. I immediately called the guy who runs my band, and I go, "Hey, look, so Ben just told me that Haggard wants to just talk, on his bus." And I go, and there might be a really good chance that this is going to interfere with my show. If that's the case, I'm good with it. Y'all just play. Y'all play whatever. Yeah, it'll whatever. I don't know how it'll go down, but like, you just make it happen because this is it for me.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did. I went up there, and it was just me and Ben, and Haggard was back in back. And I've met a lot of music guys. He was a thinker, even like when I walked up, his back was facing me, like I was coming in like this, and but it looked like he had just been thinking the whole time, and I knew this was the case immediately because he goes, "Hey Mark, thanks for having me," and I'm like, "Wow, I just appreciate you being here."
Yeah.
So he goes, "This is the first question the first thing he said was, how did David Allen like it?" And I go, it took me a little bit, and I'm like, oh my God, the icon of country music to me, that is.
Yeah.
The icon of music is here on my ranch, and now he's saying he must have researched my fest, which is so abnormal.
Yeah.
Enough to know that David Allen played the first year.
And he probably found all of your drawings of those old people.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. No, I'm just saying, I am making the comment, nobody researches a festival that they're playing. They just go and play their fest or whatever they're supposed to do and go.
But he invested in it.
He did. For him to ask that question, he had researched what was going on in my world, and that's unbelievably cool.
Yeah.
Like, who would do that?
Yeah.
I'm a little guy. So it's like, he goes, I go, wow. I go, yeah, he liked it, you know, and had a good time. He actually played longer.
Right.
He goes, so this is the 3rd year, isn't it? And I go, yeah. I go, and then I look back down and I go, and probably the last. And he does like this. He like looks right back up at me and he goes, why don't you say that? And I go, you're here this year. I don't know how to top that.
Right.
I can't. And he goes, he just kind of like did like this, and he looked back up and he goes, well, you could always have us back. And I go, okay. Oh, wow. I go, and I told Ben, he was standing right there. I go, you hear what your dad's setting up? Is this good? He's like, oh yeah, we love this place. It's cool.
Yeah.
But this is a chill bump thing for me. Is he did at that point, he looked and he said, yeah. And he was kind of laughing, but he goes, I think I got another 5 years left in me. And he looked at me in the eyes when he said that. And he died exactly 5 years after that.
Oh, wow.
And so I've always remembered that because it haunts me. It's like, what's so weird? I mean, if you talk to the Christoffersons, they'll say some other just crazy, bizarre predictions and stuff that he's had and whatever. Mm-hmm. But anyway, on meeting him, he was a super humble guy. Mm-hmm. It's always, like everybody says, it's always a risk when you meet your hero or meet your, because, it never pans out the way it's supposed to. But in my world, all the
certainly
guys,
nice when it goes like that. Yeah.
Well, all the guys that I've always respected have been way cool humans, and they've been more than George Strait, Waylon, not Waylon, Willie Nelson, Haggard, all those guys have been real cool people. Mm-hmm. you're blown away with some of the other people. Like, we've had several artists at the fest, and every once in a while we'll get a dude that I totally regret having because of a prima donna element. If if you're going to be prima donna, we want to send you home packing.
Right,
It's that
right.
easy. I don't have any tolerance for that. But yeah, meeting Haggard was like cloud nine for me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So what I want to get into now is the actual like meaning of your music. So
Okay.
I want to know what you're passionate about and what of that goes into the music, and what would you describe your music as, and what feeling are you trying to portray?
Yeah. So I'm more of a traditionalist. So I as far as my music, I do try to as genuine as I can get. You're not going to hear any songs that I write about me being in the oil field because I've never been in the oil field.
Right.
You also won't hear me write or sing a song about being a florist. I've never been a florist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's going to be about as real as I can get.
Well, there's so I don't know. I wouldn't imagine you have heard of Bo Burnham. Do you know who that is? So he's some comedian. He started on YouTube, but he has this comedy special, and he made this song called Country Song, and it's basically about and he said he started out saying
I know exactly what you're talking about.
He
didn't
say he didn't say that he didn't like country music, and he said this happens in every genre, which is like people will find out what their listeners like, and they kind of make this like
absolutely
Mad Lib style
totally true.
Mad Lib style song. It says like, as long as you get the word like beer, tailgate, trucks,
red dirt, painted on jeans.
Right.
Of course. I'm not into that at all.
Right.
And that's probably, I mean, if you talk to some really good friends of mine, that's my downfall. I mean, as far as, could I be in bigger venues if I did that? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not. But to me,
but it matters more to you that you have quality, which is good.
I can't go to sleep like that. You know, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I'm going to be brutally honest with my people that listen to my music. It's hard for me. You cannot say fans. I think that's the most delusional thing.
Right.
I consider them friends, or anybody that supports the music. It's like a part of your family, but like, no, but on my music, I mean, Church Marquee did well. I wrote it because literally I was seeing a lot of cool, creative church marquees, and I was kind of just paying homage on that.
Yeah. What's your favorite song you've written?
Oh God. It changes every day. I can't even. You can't like one of the things Dean Dillon told me. I first started writing with him. It was like, Mark, you never write a bad song. And if someone says that this is their favorite song they've written, they're a liar.
Right.
I mean, each one of them's a baby, and so you treat
it's kind of like your children. It's hard to pick a favorite.
And so it's
because you have a moment with all of them.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't have an answer for that, but I will say I'm not a love song writer. My wife really hates that.
Right.
Like,
well, you should show her the song "I'm Not Gonna Write You a Love Song." It's a really good one.
Yeah. Oh, I like that song. But the thing is I feel like that's one of those mainstreamy things. I mean, anybody can write a love song.
Yeah.
Anybody can write a heartbreak. Anybody can write a bar song. And I've got some of those for sure. But to me, I respect the John Prines. I respect the Tom Waits, all those kind of cool writers that they're not in that box. I don't want to be in that box. I write a song jalapeno because I eat jalapenos. I write Keep It Country because I really mean that. Because literally I'm on a ranch. Whenever I'll be in my house in Colorado, I'll be there, and I'm working hard, and I want my friends and my the people that go to shows, I want them to be wired the same.
Right.
And then there's like, I am a quirky guy, so like on witty songs, I'll always like there to be an element of wit in my songs. Walk Away is a perfect example of that.
And that's your most recent one?
Yep, it's number 5 right now, but it's I hate to see you go, but I love watching you walk away. I like it when you can wordplay, and get the message sold. Slapstick or, of course, you don't know. I hate listening to that. Just the same as I hate listening to a mainstream song without a hook and without anything organic. So I don't know. To me, I dig the stuff that's realistic and it hadn't been pigeonholed. And so anyway, yeah, that's where I'm at with the music. There's I like working on different projects with other people, with other writers. And what ends up happening is I'll bring my elements, and then they bring their elements, and I always learn from their elements, and then they might get a slightly witty take on an Americana song, So, but yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but
what I want to ask is, I know we talked about a lot of positive things, and that's all good, but I'm curious what's like most frustrating about being a singer-songwriter?
Oh, big time. I get frustrated all the time.
Yeah.
I go into some very low places, and it's not healthy. I'm not proud of that. But the reason is the frustration. Yeah. You hate to see guys that might not vest what you do on a daily basis. More than anything, you get frustrated at trying to deliver a genuine product a la carte in a homegrown system. It's me and the band, and that's it. You don't like to see, I get frustrated at seeing the guys that have money behind them or trust fund dudes or whatever, and then they get out and then they weren't schooled with the best writers that write with them, and but they're spending their money on hype and marketing, and the people that bite off on that, which helps their livelihood, you hate to see that. Just the same as.
Well, have you seen Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie?
I love it. Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of it actually was made up for the movie, but because they never broke up or whatever.
Right.
But in the fictionalized version of that, it was interesting because he got this new band where he was just with them and they did everything he said.
Sure.
And he was like, the problem was they did everything I said.
Right.
And he was like, I need people to say no to me because I have dumb ideas sometimes. I need people to be able to put a path on my kind of chaotic creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. I love getting feedback, and I don't get it. And when I don't get it, I get frustrated at people. And I'm talking about friends of mine or, or people in the band or whatever. I like to say, listen, what did we mess up with?
Yeah, because it's not going to help us if you don't be honest.
No, I would rather look. You did this and it was really stupid. Or this song shouldn't have ever been in there. Or why don't you have more in 3/4 time? Why don't all this stuff? You could get that stuff, and I like to be picked apart as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so it frustrates me whenever you don't get it. They're just like, oh no, it was a killer show. I don't know, it wasn't. And I don't want my band thinking that either.
Yeah.
There's never a case where you're going to have a perfect show.
Yeah. You got to keep a critical eye.
Absolutely. But no, so as far as frustrating, if you decide to get in the music business, just set yourself up, you better have a really unbreakable personality that is, won't find you in those ditches, because
Mhm.
and there's guys I also know in the music business, and they get in low places too. And some of these guys have like Billboard number ones,
Mhm.
So it's hard for me to understand that. But I don't know. I think if I didn't have all, the other businesses that are around music that, keeps me a little bit more sane from, you know, that works for me. I
Right.
can get my head out of it and get into something else, and that'll
Mhm.
fix me for a bit.
So I read this online, and apparently there's other Mark Powell. So I don't know if this is true.
No.
Do you know personally Dwight Yoakam?
Yeah. Oh, he
Okay.
played the fest last year.
Okay, tell me
Yeah.
about that, because I'm more into movies, so I know
Yeah,
him
yeah,
as the guy from Sling Blade.
Yeah.
But that's so cool. So
Carl.
tell me
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah, he's cool. In music business, in the within the music people,
Mhm.
he's got the reputation of just being a real Hollywood
Yeah.
at shows.
Did he start as a singer, or did he start as an actor?
No, it was singing first. And
Okay.
yeah, I see that, him and Haggard and Gary Allen and Buck Owens and all those guys came from that Bakersville area. And so and those are the dudes I like. I love listening to all those guys. He was really cool. I think he's got a really, really hard manager. So a lot of my friends that were working the fest were like, oh, they're just punks. And I'm like, yeah, look, that guy's getting paid to be a punk, so chill out.
Yeah.
The
But you'd say he's probably a pretty good guy.
He is a great guy.
Yeah.
I went up on there, and then next time they were in Denver, where kind of close to where I live, there, his girlfriend, slightly younger than him, about 40 years.
Yeah.
So
just barely.
Yeah, she
He just put a number.
Oh, they were okay. She she texted Mara saying, "Hey, can y'all come hang out with us and playing Red Rocks, and then whatever, and then can we hang?" I think he's good. He's an introvert by nature, and so I don't have any problem with those people. I'm kind of like that. So, but they were great people. It's they treat it like a glitz and glamour type of thing. But no, and they did a killer job at the fest last year.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let me see. Let me get into one last question before I let you go.
Could I have a question?
Oh yeah. What's your question?
Oh, well, I was just wondering, because especially like, I don't know if it's just Abilene or kind of just in general, as people in high school, we're kind of told don't like go out and try and be a musician or try and be an actor and stuff, and it's kind of like discouraged.
Yeah.
But like for people, especially because a lot of people at Abilene High want to pursue a music career, pursue an acting career, and like as someone who like made it, kind of, would you say like go for it, or would you say play it safe, or like what would your like?
No, for sure, go for it. I mean, and it's not if you're perceived that you're gonna fail at it, then you're gonna fail at it. So my thing is, like I've talked to colleges, people that are getting a business degree or doing whatever, and or trying to be an entrepreneur, and my comment to them is always, look, if you're a hard worker and you are like a driven human, you can do literally whatever you want. If you want to make Spider-Man pillows, your life, and that is your deal, that's really what you want to do. I think that's the problem with everywhere right now is because people don't understand whatever you need to hone in as quick as you can on your niche, and your niche it needs to be very, very detailed. And then exactly what it is, you need to drive that stuff home. And yes, there is a business for it. There's a place for it.
Well, I know as I grew up, there's a lot of people like I've been making videos my whole life. When I was a little kid, I was making movies in my backyard or whatever. And as I grew up, I was told by a lot of people, like, you're following your dreams more than anyone I know.
Yeah.
And I think it came from a lot. My dad would always tell me, like, when I was little growing up, like learning how to speak,
Right.
and I would ever say that I can't do something, he would legitimately get upset at me and be like,
Sure.
don't say you can't. But
Right.
it would be things that I actually couldn't do, which was kind of funny. He'd be like, can you lift this? And I physically couldn't. He'd be like, don't say you can't.
Yeah.
And I just kind of had that mindset. And so I know people who've talked about how they want to make a YouTube channel, but they have to wait till they get this really nice 4K camera.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't wait. Just start making stuff. You'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
But take what you have. I mean, everyone has an iPhone now. You can record stuff on there. Just start doing, and then you'll be able to have something to kind of craft as you go.
Oh yeah, man. I that's the case with anything. I think I hate to see people that here's what they say. They're like, oh yeah, well, I got to go to work tomorrow. Oh, I got to go to work. Or I've got to do this, or I have to find a job.
Yeah, just putting it off more and more.
No, when they say I have to find a job, that means they're not going to be doing what they want to do. You know, I'm the type where, you know, a legacy is very, very important to me. You live one time on earth. You know, you're here once. Do what you know, not just do what you want, but like this is going to come across as stupid, offensive to everybody, or, you know, maybe some people, but I don't mean it like that. But, you know, you're here for a little bit, and then I'm going to be in the ground. And when I'm in the ground, I want people to be like, that guy left with stuff for us. You know, I mean, he's got catalogs of songs. Songs aren't going anywhere. I mean, they're going to always be around. He built a festival. He developed this property. He, you know, he wrote these songs for these people.
Creating something out. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, if you have a legacy, I mean, and again, I don't mean that. Matter of fact, I'm trying to teach that to my kids. You know, I'm not going to give them what I've got. You know, I want them to be set up for success. But I wouldn't have been success if, you know, if I didn't build everything by myself. You know, I did. I built everything by myself, and it's like I want, you know, that's when it's all said and done, you know, have stuff. I can't personally, I'm not wired to where it's like, you know, I was in banking for a little bit. If I was doing that my whole life, I don't have a passion for banking. And I don't want to go in the ground being like, well, he worked at a bank.
Yeah. Well, another thing is it's not as scary as it's being made out to be, because if you keep being persistent, the worst thing that's going to happen is people are going to say no, and you're going to be where you already are.
Yeah. I mean, but really, people just don't understand. Like, if you want to do something, you kill it. There is a niche for it, and it doesn't matter what that thing is. There's friends of mine that, oh man, and I hate it when people call them dreams, because there's friends of mine that are in acting, and friends of mine that are in comedy or in entertainment, and these are all the perceived really hard, the dream job, the dream. Okay, so no, they're all in my same boat. They beat it. They beat it every day, and they get to make a living out of it. But it's not a dream. To me, it's not a dream. It's more of, yep, this is what I do, and I'm going to do it right, and do it.
Because dream makes it sound unattainable and impossible.
Yeah.
It's something they worked at and got to.
Yeah, you know, I mean, am I fortunate to do it? Yes. You're fortunate to do this here. You know, the people that, you know, own a whatever business that they're proud of or whatever, that's great. They should be proud of it, but it doesn't come by chance, you know. Yeah, it's straight up build it yourself and work as hard as you can, and then you're there.
Well, before I get you out of here, I'm gonna have to ask you to sign the table.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
Keep this tradition going.
Anthony Williams. All right. James Grant.
I had some people. I had the mayor on, Anthony Williams, and he was like, I grew up in a house that would not be okay with this. I feel my mother watching me as I sign a table, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, that does feel weird.
Yeah. Well, all right. I appreciate having you on. I think we had a really good talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Best
All right.
of luck with this.
Thank you so much.